on our panel, we have some amazing, amazing people, all with unique set of circumstances and life experiences. And we wanted to kind of connect with everyone as quickly as we could in this hour. So we asked each of our panelists to share a story that's grounded in happiness, a personal story that's grounded in happiness that, you know, they'd like to kind of express and share with everyone. So, Laurent, would you like to kick it off?
Yeah, I'd love to. But first off, I'm incredibly grateful for all of you being here. You know, the people putting the World Happiness Summit together, all of you taking the leap and having the courage to come and participate on this, during this very first event, or the Lululemon collective coming from all over the world. So grateful for you doing this. So, thank you. So my story starts in 2000, and for the first time, I get to the top of an organization, and I get to lead the organization. And it's the job that I had dreamt for a long time. I wasn't sure whether it was going to happen. It was a brand I loved, with people I loved, a sport that I enjoyed so much. And I get to the top, and I go home, and I'm proud, scared shitless, but proud. And the next day, the struggle really starts. The whole time I had done great, and I get in that seat, and suddenly I feel like I have to be the smartest one in the room. I have to have all the answers for everybody. I have to look good, otherwise I'm going to get called out. And it's not a very fun place. It's not a very fun place for me, and honestly, it's not a very fun place for the people that worked with me, because I was always trying to be the smartest one, and nearly wasn't the case very often. So through years of personal development and a lot of focus on what I needed, what I wanted, I realized that there was another way of doing this, far more powerful way. And instead of focusing on the answers, was really to have the right questions. And when I made that shift about asking the right questions, I realized that it created so much space and so much freedom for myself, and it inspired the people around me in a much more powerful way. And I think that's really where we see the world going. When we think about the fact that in the next 5 years, we're going to have 3 more billion people connected on the internet. When you see the evolution of crowdsourcing, for anybody to think that they have the answers to everything is unrealistic, and this is clearly not where the world is going. So today, I feel incredibly fortunate to live in the middle of an organization where we strive in nurturing people recognizing that they have the power of choice, where we strive on personal development, and where we actually really focus on giving people the tools to live and design the life that they love. And so we spend most of our efforts, when you think about companies, they spend most of our efforts on functional training and how do we make our people better. And we actually flip that on its head. We focus all of our training and development on personal development. And so when I think about where the world is going, I think that we're really at a time where there is a very interesting paradigm shift going on. And it's a paradigm shift that makes us go from corporate culture to human culture. And I like to think about it coming to life in 2 ways. One is the concept of doing well to do good. I think for a long time, you've had the spectrum of companies saying, oh, you know what, you can be on Wall Street and you can be greedy and all focused on your profits. And on the other side, you've got NGOs focused on giving back and struggling to survive. The NGOs have all the soul, and the companies have no soul. Today, I actually feel that the more soul and the more purpose you have as a company, the more profitable you will be. And the more profitable you are, the more good you can do into the world. And so when you think about what it does, first of all, people wake up in the morning wanting to have purpose. And what does that purpose creates employee engagement, employee attraction with your consumers, with our guests. It creates effortless loyalty. I mean, we're not perfect. We make a lot of mistakes. Because of our purpose, people are incredibly loyal to us. And last but not least, it actually allows us to be a really inclusive brand by focusing on our social impact and how do we give back. And we give back in a way that we're most passionate about, we're most uniquely positioned to deliver, and it's around athleticism and mindfulness for underserved communities. So when you think about your purpose, how it affects your employees, your consumer, your ability to give back, it's a really powerful ecosystem. So if you were to take one message, I think the message of doing well to do good is incredibly important. It's good for your employees, your consumers, your shareholders, the people you're giving back to, and I think it's actually incredibly powerful and sustainable. The second aspect of shifting from corporate culture to human culture is it's really about evolving to, and I'm losing my train of thought, but it's the concept of work-life balance. People talk about work-life balance so much, and I think it has become irrelevant. The concept of I'm going to go to work and do what I need to do and then I'll have a good time at home is not how people want to live their life. I mean, people have the right to be happy in every moment of their life. And I think that's where really purpose and personal development come into play in a really powerful way. So work-life, I mean, I actually like to think in a slightly different way. I like to think about it in terms of energy. Throughout the day, you gain your energy and you deplete your energy, and you want your tank of energy to be full. And so whether it's a stressful meeting could give you a lot of energy. It could be a run. It could be a meditation. A bad meeting could deplete your energy. And your kids at home could deplete your energy. So that's why I really think that the concept of work-life balance is dated. And I like to think about it in terms of energy. So really think about that evolution of corporate culture going from doing well to do good and the work-life balance going to energy. And all of that wraps beautifully in your purpose. So on our way here, we're on a flight, and I think it's Danielle that asked me, would you rather hire people with skills or experience? And I said, I would much rather, if I have only one choice, I would much rather hire people that are aligned with our purpose. Because when you do that, you can actually foster an environment of trust, loyalty, autonomy, and an entrepreneurial spirit where people are going to kill it. And if you can get skill and experience, it's awesome. But skill and experience with no alignment with the purpose is a massive waste of time. So that's how I feel about it.
Thank you, LP.
Thank you.
That was awesome. So, purpose and happiness within the corporate frame of Lululemon. So Danielle, awesome meditation earlier again and dance moves. I was back here watching it. It was, yeah, you should be on a video. But talk to us a little bit about the practice of happiness within the framework of Lululemon.
We often talk about purpose and practice, and how we really fuel our culture is by making these conscious choices to be in the practice in every moment. So whether it's starting a meeting with a 5-minute meditation and intention setting, or being in the real conversation with our colleagues and our managers, we're committed to be integrated into the practice. And this is how I feel that we've really moved from a corporate culture to human culture. We can be sitting in a meeting and we can say to someone, hey, what do you need right now in this moment? What do you need so that you can be fully present? One of our core values for our company is fun. So we like to inject fun in everything we do, whether it is, doing the shipping stuff and boxing things up, or folding things, folding the pant walls, or even in a meeting, wherever we are, we really want to bring fun and honesty, entrepreneurship, our core values into our everyday.
Give it up for Danielle. Yeah. So that's interesting because I had a personal experience where, the Lululemon afforded me a trip to Puerto Rico to spend some time with my man Brandon over there, who was like a captain of fun. Or what was the title?
Director of fun.
The director of fun. And he was no joke with this job. I mean, he had us going like nonstop. It was almost not fun anymore. But Well, Brandon, talk to us. Tell us a little bit about how you inspire your team and push that out into the community in Puerto Rico.
Absolutely. That story actually starts 6 years ago. So I used to work in a hospital, and I was actually getting ready to go back to get a degree in nursing. And something about my daily life wasn't resonating with me, and I called up my mom one day and said, "Hey, Mom, I'm quitting my job, and I'm giving up my spot in nursing school." And as any good mom, she was very concerned, and it's what I shared with her. It was my safety blanket. It was actually preventing me from going after something so much bigger, and was living paycheck to paycheck for about a month and a half. And a friend of mine said, "Hey, you should come work at Lululemon." And the spirit of yesterday, WTF is Lululemon. And 6 years later, here I am, living my best life every single day. And at the time, what I didn't realize I was doing is I was choosing happiness, and I only knew how to do it for myself. And as I've grown with the company, I've literally worked every position from seasonal employee to store manager. And what Lululemon has done over the years has given me the tools to unlock that in other people. To show them a life that they would not see otherwise, to see things in them that they don't have the power to see in themselves, whether it's via vision and goals, whether it's development days. We are a company that truly invests in their employees. Whether they choose to stay with us or whether they choose to go out in the world, we know that we're having an impact everywhere. And I don't think enough companies can say that about themselves. And what I know to even be true about this experience, I'm very much a person that leads through vulnerability. And the moment I got nominated it was an extreme honor, but I went to a place of, who am I to come up and share with this group of people? I'm just a store manager at Lululemon. And then they made it even worse. They told me to go on the website to look at how to write a biography for this, and I saw all the amazing people that were gonna be here this weekend. And I started to go down that rabbit hole, and then I stopped myself knowing the impact that I've had a chance to make. I took a huge risk. I moved to Puerto Rico for 2 years, having never stepped foot on the island, only speaking Spanish and knowing that I wanted to create something from nothing. And over the course of 2 years, I saw the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And what I truly got my team to see over the course of that 2-year period was that if it's a Seth Godin quote, if failure is not an option, then neither is success. And I believe that same thing about the emotional spectrum. If you can't be truly hurt by something, then you're not going to have the opportunity to feel extreme joy. And I saw both of it. It tested my marriage. It tested me as a leader. It tested me as a human. And I will be forever grateful, A, for that experience, and for Lululemon giving me that opportunity.
Well said, Brandon. Well said. So what I heard in there, Brandon, was happiness as a choice, right? And if you what was it saying? If success is not an option, if failure is not an option.
If failure is not an option, then neither is success.
There's a choice. So to be happy, you can be purposeful and choose happiness every time, right? And we'll dig into that more on the panel discussion because I want to hear what you guys have to add to that. But along that line, happiness as a choice. Listen, last night I had the opportunity to hear Josh's talk. And what he was faced with and what he's dealt with has been nothing short of extraordinary. And how he handled that is so impressive to me. And I think choice was a big factor in that, right? Can you speak on that just a tad?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I received an email saying, hey, would you want to be on the panel and speaking to happiness as a choice in the face of adversity? And I had to put on my thinking cap, and Lacey and I sat and we thought and we talked about it. And I think one of the biggest turning points for me was literally in the hospital. Amongst the other things, if you heard my story yesterday, was my uncle came in and he shared some words of wisdom. And I'm pretty sure you've all heard it at one point in time or another. It's not what happens to a person in their life that defines their character, but rather how they respond to it. And you know, something really significant just happened to me, a physical transformation. And as much as I wanted to go back and run around and play soccer and hike up the mountains and live life the way that I had always hoped and always planned, I surrendered to It's an interesting, I don't know how to frame it. There is a higher power. It is the universe, and our body is such a phenomenal teacher that there was a lesson inherent in what had happened to me that I was meant to learn from. And as much as I've experienced a great deal in the last 13 years, I don't know that I have a clear answer as to what I've learned in the last 13 years from what my body was indicating I needed to draw from, which was the spinal cord injury. But just surrendering to that. And then it is a conscious choice. You know, I had every opportunity in the world to wallow in misery, and I doubt that anybody would have judged or blamed me for it because of the gravity of the situation. But I chose to move forward because that's all I knew what to do, you know.
Thank you, Josh.
And it is a choice, and it is not always easy, but there is something so humbling about the opportunity and what exposes itself. And the point that I want to make is, you know, when we surrender and we allow, there's something so beautiful. Adversity often is framed as not a good thing. But when I was thrust into a position of adversity, and it's happened time and again in my life, I find it to be such an incredible and beautiful experience because we are given not a choice as much as an opportunity to be present and connected to the moment. And I'll just draw into a more immediate situation. Our little dude is here, Hudson. He's 4 months old right now, but when he was 2 weeks, he picked up a virus and he stopped breathing, and we nearly lost him. And that is by far the worst thing that I've ever felt in my heart, is seeing a little human being in distress and knowing that there was nothing that I could do other than call an ambulance. And of all the things in the world that were around me and they're calling me and stressing me and challenging me, everything was just wiped away. So next time adversity presents itself to you, whether it is perceived as a very small thing or a larger event in life, look at that as a blessing and as an opportunity to be fully present and fully engaged, and remember what that feels like, because your capacity reveals itself in a hurry.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. So, also on the panel with us today is Paige Owens. Paige, you're coming in all the way from Africa, where you're doing some amazing work. You're with our Here-to-Be partners, and you're really serving an underserved community. Can you tell us a little bit about your story there?
Sure. So I asked my daughter last night, why do you think Mommy moved to Kenya? And she said, to have a daughter. But I say that because 10 years ago, I was living in Miami, actually. I'm originally from New York. And my dad had a new girlfriend, and he wanted us to get to know her. I was teaching yoga full-time. And he said, let's do a family vacation to Africa. And I was like, well, I don't really want to go on a family vacation, but I do want to go to Africa. So my sister and I conspired. And I was like the least likely person in high school that would ever be on this panel thinking they're moving to Africa to serve people. I mean, I was out partying on Lincoln Road and doing yoga because it was making my body look better. When I was on that safari, we were traveling through a national park, and I saw lions, and then I saw tigers and monkeys, and all of a sudden I saw a guy doing handstands. And I was looking for any excuse to get out of the car with my dad and his girlfriend. And I was like, Dad, we have to stop. I have to do a handstand. I want to go upside down. And my dad said, no, you'll get like raped and killed. We're in the middle of the bush. And I didn't listen. I jumped out of the top of the safari vehicle and went and did a handstand with these guys. And it was an amazing moment of connection, from feeling like I was a tourist on vacation to feeling like I was in the practice of being with people. About that I went home, I was actually living in Japan, and I got a message, and this is gonna really age me, on MySpace, which was the social media platform then. They had Googled Paige and yoga and found me and said, hey, we're the acrobats that you met in Kenya. Can you come to Africa and teach yoga to us? And I said, yeah, here's my contract. Like, I get a 40-60 split, and I need all vegan food and to stay at this type of hotel. And they wrote back and said, actually, we live in the slums, in the informal settlements. We can't pay you. We're quite poor, but we're rich in our hearts. And they said, you know, we saw you're really flexible from your social media, because even back then we used to put yoga pictures on social media. And they said, you know, we know you can do all this stuff with your bodies. We can't, but we're very flexible in our minds. And I bought a ticket to Kenya. And my experience the second time to Kenya was a lot different than the first time. I had 7 guys pick me up, bring me to their house in Kibera, which is a huge slum and informal settlement, and take me to a room without any electricity, no toilet, and I'm sleeping on a bed, and my 6 acrobats are sleeping on the floor. And I was told before I go to bed, make sure you go to the bathroom, because if you go out at night, you'll be assaulted. And that experience of living with these guys for 3 months changed my life. Being from such a privileged society, being told my whole life that if you just work hard, you'll be happy. If you just work hard, you won't be poor. You know, it's hard work that makes us happy. And my parents lived the American dream. They lived that opportunity to work hard and be happy. But what I realized quickly in Kenya was you could work very hard, but if you didn't have access, you couldn't make any money. You could work from the time the sun goes up to after the sun goes down and still find yourself living with disease. So that is when I called my teacher, Baron Baptiste, and said, hey, what do you think if we train these young people? Right now in Kenya, 70% of young people under 30 are unemployed. I don't know if you can imagine what it would be like in Miami if 70% of people were unemployed. And I said, what would happen if we train these young people to be yoga teachers? There's an emerging middle class and upper class that they can teach yoga to. And then they can go out and serve their own communities and create access to yoga and meditation. And if any of you know Baron Baptiste, his favorite word is yes. And so he gave me a giant yes and came out to Kenya, and we did our first teacher training in 2009. Since 2009, Baron and I have trained over 250 teachers in 13 different African countries. We teach over 8,000 people a week free yoga in over 300 different locations. And our average teacher, a young person, like one of our teachers, Margaret, who was married at 12 years old, left the streets, left her marriage to live on the streets, and somehow found a yoga class. There's hundreds of people like Margaret that are now teaching yoga, supporting her 5-year-old daughter, supporting her family. She's teaching yoga at the United Nations. She's also giving back to her own community. She's teaching yoga to HIV-positive mothers in prison. And we're supporting hundreds of people that are making more money than doctors make, being yoga teachers that come from the most challenging environments. And I'm a mom of a beautiful 4-year-old Kenyan girl. So it's been a great journey. And you know, there's a Swahili proverb that says, a Kenyan proverb that says, to be happy, you need to have work, you need something to do, you need something to love, and you need a possibility to look forward to. You need hope, and I heard you talking about hope yesterday. And I'm so excited to be here to be partner, because we really believe, together with Lululemon, that everyone has a right to those things. Everyone has a right to be happy. Everyone has a right to community. Everyone has a right to work, to entrepreneurship, to be able to feel like there's purpose in their life, and everyone has a right to possibility and fun.
Thank you, Paige. That was amazing. So we're going to open up for a little bit more interactive discussion right now. So awesome panel, right? Yeah. So I had a question. So LP, help me with this. So you're on top of the food chain, so to speak, at Lululemon. And
that way, but
well, the company is making like really innovative products. Products that when you wear it, you feel good about yourself. You feel like when I put on a pair of Lululemon, this is a Lululemon outfit, and it enhances my sexy. And I think that's true for everybody on stage, by the way. Blue is the new black, if you were wondering. And, but it's so much more than functional and fashionable apparel. You know, like you touched on earlier, it's about people, it's about the culture. And I really want you to dig in a little bit more with that, if you don't mind. Like, where do you see it going 5 years from now?
there's a very simple way.
Can we get some audio on?
There's a very simple way to look at it. The old model of running your business in command and control is dated, and it's not going to work anymore. So you can carve that aside. And we really believe that decentralized leadership is actually the way of the future. It's giving people entrepreneurial spirit and autonomy and freedom. And again, as long as you're aligned on your purpose, we really know for a fact that diversity breeds innovation and it breeds magic. So that decentralized leadership model is something that's incredibly powerful for us. So when you think about the product, I mean, we live at the intersection of function and fashion in a really unique and beautiful way. And the way we bring function to life is through another form of decentralized leadership we've got 2,000 ambassadors around the world. And those ambassadors are people that we don't have a contractual relationship with, but we support their studio, we drive traffic to their various businesses, they help us with product development. And it's not forced, it's very authentic. They participate in product development, and so when they speak on our behalf, it's incredibly powerful. And the fact that those 2,000 ambassadors are all over the world, it allows us to listen in a very local way. So very early on, we can pick up on trends, we can pick up on activities, we can pick up on new ways to sweat, how people create their own mindfulness in different parts of the world. So again, like from a product development, decentralized leadership is really powerful. But the same thing happens with our stores. So when you think about our 12,000 people around the world, retail right now is a tough industry. It's a tough business. And the reason I truly, truly believe that the reason we strive in this business is because of our people. So yeah, on one hand, we've got great product, but on the other hand, the energy, the people that you get to meet in our stores, our educators every day, is more than 50% of our success. And we always say that the educator is the most important role in the company. And when we do that, when we listen, whether it's to our educators or to our ambassadors, we never make mistakes. The power of listening and being curious is incredible. And actually, when we've made mistakes, and we've made many, is when we actually didn't listen. So this decentralized leadership model is something that I really think is part of this paradigm shift. It's the way people want to work in the future, especially when you look at millennials. And it's something that we're very proud of. We love to share, and we feel we've got a responsibility sharing.
So, yeah, I heard some people clapping on that. That was powerful, powerful. So, decentralized leadership, there has to be a lot of trust involved with, you know, everybody on the team then, right?
Yeah. Can you imagine working in an environment where you don't have trust? And then you go right back to command and control, and then you go right back to waking up in the mornings thinking that you've got to be the smartest one and have all the answers, which is really not a great way to live your life. So yeah, I mean, we focus so much on personal development that decentralized leadership is a huge catalyst. I mean, we opened our business in China 2 years ago, and we've sort of taken baby steps. And we're trusting people there. I mean, I met some of our educators in Shanghai back in December, and I was blown away. I was wondering what our educators would look like in China. Would they be similar? Would they have the same passion than the one in North America or in Australia or in Europe? And I was blown away with the people that we got, their passion, their focus on personal development. And it comes to life in a very local way, and that's the beauty of the model, right? I mean, trying to tell the world, if you really want to be a global brand, you've got to be globally inspired. It's like we're not going to tell the world what they need to do from Vancouver. So you're right. I mean, it's like it needs a lot of trust. And without that, you've got nothing. So it's interesting. I mean, as the CEO, I always said that I've got the least amount of control over where the company is going. I mean, what I do really is I set the vision with a lot of people, not by myself by any means, but I set the vision. We have clear direction, and then you've got to let go. And when you let go, you get this massive exponential return that I don't think I would ever see otherwise.
I think that that's very powerful. And while you were just articulating that, I was thinking maybe this would work in a marriage too, or any other relationship. Just decentralize that control and ask the right questions, and off you go.
And then you've got the power of choice.
Power of choice. So Danielle, I know you work a lot with everyone in Lululemon, and inspiring them and keeping them motivated and keeping them up to speed with performance. So can you dig a little bit more into that and tell us exactly what that looks like?
Sure. It's funny when you ask me that I try to get other people to keep up with performance and manage. And actually what I'm trying to do is just manage myself and make sure that I'm showing up in a powerful, authentic way every single moment. And I think it's through that example, especially with this title of Director of Mindful Performance, I can't be mindless. There's this awareness that people are looking at me like, okay, do you have your shit together? So it's about being in the practice, as we talked about earlier, about carving out those times in the day just for you and figuring out what are those things that absolutely fuel you so that you can show up as powerfully as you're meant to be for yourself and others. So it's really about that. I mean, we do a lot of things at Lululemon. We have offsites and development days, and as Laurent was saying, we are truly grounded in personal development. We really are a human culture, and we care about our people. And so that's why I think that we do have one of the happiest, with our culture surveys, we're seeing that we have the happiest people working for us.
Thank you.
And I don't think that Danielle gives herself enough credit. I mean, Danielle and Gina Warren, who's somewhere in the audience, who leads all of our people and culture, so who's really sort of at the heart of everything we do. They recently, we've always been really focused on vision and goals as an organization. And all of us, when we join the company, our ambassadors, our educators, we all go through vision and goals. And it's such a powerful tool. But recently, they've taken that to a whole new level. And we're starting to bring that to the entire organization where you've added purpose. And I think that's made vision and goals so much more powerful. So we've gone through a pilot about a month ago, and I know that personally, I mean, you've been able to unlock so much more. So that personal development focus is going to work for all of our educators in a much more powerful way in the future. So we do a lot more than just fun and meditation for us.
Thank you.
Great. So it sounded like you're taking personal responsibility and almost leading by example then, right? And I think that's true. I've seen, in my experience, I've seen that to be true throughout the culture of the firm. So, and certainly, Josh, when we were talking at dinner the other night, you mentioned something that stuck out to me. You said after the incident happened that what was impactful to you in making that decision or that choice was not so much the situation that happened to you, but how you felt about other people that were impacted by their witnessing the situation. Can you talk a little bit about that, like the responsibility that you felt that you owed to others as a result?
It's funny. I think a lot of us in life carry around boatloads of guilt and shame, and that is a byproduct of perhaps some conditionings in society. And for sure, I had earned the guilt and shame that I was carting around with me because I knew how selfish and unnecessary the decision that I made to override my body's instinct to hit that jump. And then, as I mentioned yesterday, how quickly I realized and how deep the impact was for all those kids. And I didn't elaborate on, some of those kids don't ski anymore. They saw what happened to their coach and their leader, and they realized the severity of the consequence of a sport that does have risk, albeit not many people get hurt as severely as I did at that time, but it had a pretty significant impact. And for me, who was trying to convey my love for the sport, the love for the mountains, and how nature can actually be such a phenomenal teacher for us, that I had stripped that away from them. On the other hand, there are some athletes that have gone on to become Olympic athletes and so on and so forth, so everybody responded differently. But that was one of my root motivations, for better or for worse. It was a force in the universe that allowed me and gave me strength to drive forward. And my motivation to get back to the mountains, beyond my desire to be in the mountains, was to show the kids that, you know, if you get knocked off the horse, it's important to get back on again and continue to push forward. And you know, I never owned up or admitted to those feelings of guilt and shame until not that long ago. I'm working on doing a bit of a story or a book. And the same sports psychologist that gave me those pearls of wisdom, both in Vancouver, and he was a part of my story in Sochi. And I got to give Dr. John Coleman a little bit of credit here. After I had crashed, this is a side story, after I had crashed in Sochi in the Super G, and you may have, if you were here, saw the video yesterday, a few days later I went on to win gold. And the morning that I had won the event, I woke up and I was rehearsing the Canadian anthem. I had dreamt about the anthem, and then I woke up and I was singing the anthem, and John had called up and he said, "Hey man, how you doing?" I said, "Dude, I'm great. Like, I couldn't be any better. I'm on top of the world right now." And he had encouraged me. It was equally important to let go of the stress and the feelings of failure from the days before, as it was to surrender and let go of the feelings and anticipations of what a great day it's going to be, to allow for the room to be present in the moment. Now, back to the story that I was telling, the kids that he had been interviewing, everybody that was there that day that had witnessed my accident, have gone on and said, "Oh man, Josh is a great inspiration. I can't believe how he's reacted to the situation. He's such a great guy." And then he started to really, I don't want to say poke because I wasn't at the interviews, but inquire deeply as to what that experience was actually like. And he said, across the board with every one of the kids that I was working with and the parents and the volunteers that were there that day, like pulling off a Band-Aid. On the surface, they had addressed the issue and they were happy to see me move forward, but the trauma was very real, and pulling off the Band-Aid exposed an infected wound. So I think I veered a little bit off of the question that you were asking in terms of how did I respond and everything like that. Big motivation was guilt and shame for what I had put these kids through. And since then, I've let that go because I understand that they were meant to be there as much as it was meant for me to happen. I need to wrap this one up. Where am I going here? You know, the universe works in mysterious ways. And let's just go right over to Star Wars. You know, you've got the light and you got the dark. And we're all familiar with that classic story of the hero and the villain. And Darth Vader had an opportunity to redeem himself in the final hours. And as do we, if we have an opportunity to embrace our shadow and not be afraid of it, because it is a great force that is within all of us, whether it's something that's accumulated in this lifetime or who knows where. But we need to be very candid and honest with who we are in all aspects of our being to truly integrate our capacity to love and be empathetic. And I think I've heard this across the board today, to literally be the change that we want to see in the world. And we all know who authored that saying.
Thank you. Thanks, Sean. So I hope you guys are taking notes, because these guys are dropping some real knowledge up here today. I mean, forward thinking, be progressive, do things differently, turn things on its head, you know, do things differently. Be a leader, lead by example, show up like you were meant to be there. Make decisions about how it is you're gonna feel. Make decisions and commit to those decisions. And Brandon, I just wanted to know if you were still torturing people with all the activities in Puerto Rico.
No, so about halfway through my experience in Puerto Rico, my wife was down there with me, and I speak Spanish and she doesn't. She actually works for Lululemon as well, and she left Lululemon to come down and join me and took on a job she didn't necessarily love. And she's also definitely a homebody. She had never lived more than 30 miles from home. We live in Cincinnati, Ohio. So a change of scenery for us. And I'm forever grateful for her to let me have that experience, to let us have that experience. And so she moved home actually 9 months before I did. So basically May of last year, she moved home, and then I just moved home about a month ago, and then 2 months after that, my dogs moved home. So I was literally on an island by myself. And what I really, really had to embrace was the power of vulnerability in those moments to support my team. When I showed up and I pretended like things were all good, my team saw right through me. And I wasn't being the leader that they needed me to be. They needed to see that I bleed just like they do. And the moment I shifted and started to lead through vulnerability on a daily basis was also literally the exact moment I started to see a shift in my team. And I'm proud to say the team that I left behind was definitely not the team that I started with, and they are forever my family. And I know that they're out making an impact in Puerto Rico in a community that desperately needs it down there.
So how are we on time? Do we keep going?
You've got 6
Wrap it
minutes
up.
and 21 seconds. I can see the timer now.
How are you guys doing out there? You feeling good? That's what's important. All right. So one last question before we move on to the next phase. So Paige, you made quite a commitment moving to Africa and really building opportunity there, building out a culture there. Is there any one particular story that stands out to you about someone that you impacted in particular, or anything like that you care to share?
Sure. Let me embarrass the person in the room. So tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., I'll be teaching yoga with Patrick from Kenya, who's here. And, so some of you know him from the Here to Be story that Lululemon told. And if you haven't watched it, just Google Africa Yoga Project, Lululemon Here to Be, and you'll find out more about Patrick. And really, when I met Patrick, I don't even know, wherever you are, that you even spoke English, really. You were such a little troublemaker. But he had this light in his eyes, this shininess in his eyes, and a smile that could really cross oceans. And you could see the good behind many, many challenging things that happened to Patrick. He was, raised in a single-parent household, and then lost his mother and raised by his grandmother, and really had to turn to crime to support his family and his younger siblings. And life can do that to us, and then yoga can wake us up to see that there's another choice and another way to live. And my most proud moment was I had to leave for Miami a day before Patrick had to leave, and he walked into the office. He's like, "How am I getting to Miami?" I'm like, an airplane, and then you'll take an Uber. And an Uber to the hotel, here's the address. And he's like, "Well, what do you mean? What do you mean? That's not enough information. Where do I go?" And I'm like, "You're gonna be fine. You are now empowered, you're educated, all of the things that we try and do at Africa Yoga Project, you are it. You can do this." And I got a WhatsApp message from the hotel yesterday, "Hey, I've arrived, just gonna grab some lunch and see the other Lulu people." I'm like, yes, man, that's it. We're creating global citizens. And Patrick now travels back and forth to Mogadishu and works for UNICEF to help gender-based violence survivors and children that were in war with ex-child soldiers, and to really help them with yoga meditation. And the guy gets on a plane to a war zone to do this. And I'm just so proud of Patrick and so proud of the contribution that he makes that is not dependent on Africa Yoga Project anymore. It's really him out there being a leader for his community.
Thank you. Good job, Patrick.